Good evening. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Urbana City Council to order, and that will be followed by a meeting of the Committee of the Whole, chaired by Bill Brown. So would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Madigan.
Here.
Ms. Marlin.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Smythe. Here. Mayor Pressing.
Here. Next is petitions and communications. I think what we could do is do them all at the Committee of the Whole, because two of them are about pavers. So we can just move ahead unless anybody really wants to talk at this meeting, which is a one-subject meeting. Okay. The first item is new business ordinance number 2015-07-069, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with Broadway Market, LLC, 401 North Broadway Avenue. And here is Brandon Boyce to explain this.
So I'll just speak very briefly to first note that I'm discussing both items, the ordinance to approve the redevelopment agreement and also ordinance pertaining to the budget amendment that's necessary to fund the agreement if approved. Both ordinances have been updated with the LLC, Broadway Market LLC name, and the agreement received 3 substantive updates. One was to require that the promissory note not be forgiven until the business is operated for 2 years continuously, that a mortgage be required to secure the promissory note, and that the conditions precedent were, the language was enhanced to make the city's position more clear and provide greater flexibility in proceeding with that administrative review. The 3 members of the LLC, investors and developers of the project, are here tonight, Chirag Shah, Richard Grossi, and Matt Cho, and they're available if you have any questions.
Are there any questions? Come on up, gentlemen. There are 3 chairs.
And if you'd like
Only
to,
one microphone, but 3 chairs.
if you'd like to speak at all about what led to the project or any other notes you'd like to make, we'd love to hear from you.
I guess, are there any questions first?
Dennis.
So as the project evolves and you start having individuals who are interested in displaying their work within the marketplace area, do you imagine these to be permanent renters or space holders, or do you imagine that this will be fluctuating and that the rental of the space will turn over in time depending on interest or business plans?
I think there's both. The seasonal spaces that we've designed are ones that are in the dining area, and those will probably be seasonal or less than a year type tenancies. If we can get a year of leasing from them or more, that'd be great. But I think the majority of the project is there is an anchor tenant that has their own dedicated space, the roastery, and then there is probably a collective, almost like cafeteria company, Pizza M and Flying Machine, who have extended their 2 years with the Cafeteria Co. So I think with the mix, it's probably a majority long-term tenant, more than a year, at least longer than 2 years.
So the business that you also operate on Main Street is kind of like a model for how that might go.
Exactly, and I think what led to the Broadway Market concept is that there was so much demand for the kitchen space within Cafeteria Company, and this is really a double of the size of them. Hopefully we can encourage and influence more of Urbana's residents that do a lot of food-based businesses and provide the infrastructure for them to sell and then almost incubate in a way.
And are you also going to have a liquor license on the site?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Any other questions? Aaron.
So the project itself, when you all start, when you go through this entire process, and I'm in particular interested in job creation. what do you anticipate being the number of jobs created in the initial phase, in the middle phase, and even at the end?
I think we estimated conservatively about 20 jobs on the initial output, up to 30 to 40. I think 20 is based on the scale of what Cafeteria and Company is right now. We basically doubled that and added increases. We are dealing, instead of with 2 tenants like 208 West Main, we're dealing with almost 5 tenants. So even though we're just doing a 2x multiple on the, I guess, employee, both full-time and part-time, I think total we're listing at least 20, possibly up to 30 or 40 within year 2 or year 3.
And what about in the early phases? There's some demo that has to be done, and then some refurbishing, reconstruction type of stuff. What are you thinking there?
Right. So within the construction phase, there's about, we estimate anywhere from 8 to 6 months of construction, and that is all contractors that hire crews of up to maybe 3 or 4. Some of the larger projects like the roofing or HVAC will probably have more dedicated full-time employees that are under their, I guess, their crews.
Mhm.
With the MEP stuff, we always go union and ensure like the highest quality of work.
Okay. I'm sure I'm going to have more questions. I mean, I support the project. I think it's great. I think that, you know, the innovative ideas and things that you bring to the table, they're welcomed in the city. I certainly support them. When I think about issues of around TIF money and addressing blight and trying to redevelop areas, I'm also very concerned about who's getting opportunities to work in those areas,
Mhm.
right? So I'm working with the local labor unions and trade unions about diversity. We have an event coming up Wednesday around this called Pathways to Apprenticeship. So I'm interested in seeing who's going to be working throughout this process.
Mhm.
From the beginning of the process to the end, are the individuals who are predominantly poor and sort of locked out of gainful employment opportunities, are they gaining access to this? And I know that's not what the objective is for you guys, or not even necessarily for the TIF. I just sort of want to speak this into the public record to make sure that I'm putting this out there, that I think these are some of the concerns that we should also think about as we're talking about development.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if I can comment, I guess the only county outside of for the Cafeteria Main Street projects was McLean County that we hired. I make it an effort to hire within Champaign County at all way possible, of course, keeping quality at the highest level.
Right. Thank you.
Bill Brown.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for Brandon or Debbie or whoever, but I guess since this is in the Boneyard Creek Way district, but it's not new construction, were there opportunities to take advantage of any of the Boneyard Creek Way incentives, like off-site parking or anything like that, or was that considered in part of your considerations of what potentially you could do there? How if at all, did that play into it?
We haven't reached that level of design review at this time. So this approval of this agreement will allow the developer to proceed with financing and then detailed design and approvals, which are all conditions precedent to the agreement actually taking effect. So we'll get into the details of the Creekway permits at that time. But the site is currently Zone B4, which I believe does not have a parking requirement on it. I don't know if Libby would like to add to that. Okay. So there was no need to look at those specific requirements for this project, but we will go through a much more thorough review when we have detailed plans submitted prior to the agreement taking effect.
Okay, and just on the outside of the building, was there any, I meant to ask you the other day why I was there, but I forgot, was there any special treatment to the outside besides just like painting and cleaning up? Would it be resurfaced at all?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, settlement within the building, so we'll make sure that the building is tuck pointed and sealed. I think one of the biggest concerns is the roof at this point, so it's the facade that no one can really see, but probably is the most important in terms of energy efficiency and lighting, natural lighting, that is.
Okay, thanks.
Diane.
Will you be coming back to council when you have your actual designs finalized, just to share what the vision's going to be with the public?
I don't know. I'm sure we could have some renderings made for the interior, especially as the layout gets more finalized, but I think the schematic that I presented within the packet is what we're tasking any architect with, is making sure that that kind of flow or programming stays consistent. The renderings that we have provided are based on kind of that layout as well, but
Well, I'm actually interested in the actual elevations.
oh, the elevate, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to see what you'll actually be building.
Right. How it meets, I guess, the sidewalk and on the exterior?
Yeah, and how it matches what your conceptuals are that we've seen, which I think are great.
Mhm.
I just
Yep.
would like to see what it's going to look like.
Absolutely.
And I would
Yeah.
just say I'd like to thank you for working with staff and council to address a lot of our questions and concerns. I mean, this new development agreement fills in a whole lot of blanks that were present before, and I really appreciate the fact that you were willing to work with us in terms of adding the 2 years of continuous operation, and I think this agreement provides a whole lot more financial oversight for the city and accountability to the public in the use of public dollars. So I think this is a much, much improved agreement, and I appreciate the tour. Thanks.
Charlie?
Well, given that I agree with all that has been said, I'll move approval of ordinance 2015-769, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with Broadway Market LLC, 401 North Broadway.
I'll second.
A motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Any other discussion? Mr. Madigan?
Well, I don't want to drag this out, but I would echo Diane's comments. Matt, I appreciate you taking me through the building. I think it does, it has a lot of good bones. You know, it's a structure worth saving. I would also like to comment on Bill's statements about the exterior. It's something that occurred to me, frankly, after we toured the building. It is a cement block building.
Right.
Windows are going to be a great enhancement. It would be nice to have some kind of facade improvement to make it more in keeping with the neighboring buildings that are, a couple of them are which are fairly attractive, a couple of brick buildings, so
Right.
it'd be nice if that works into the plan.
Mhm.
And I also would just like to say that I think that with this development project coming forth and the questions that we asked, I think it's a good opportunity for the city to revisit how we go about these deals. I think a lot of folks have faith in you. You've brought in investors, and I appreciate you gentlemen coming here this evening and being willing to answer questions and put forth information. That's very important. I mean, you know, we're stewards of taxpayers' dollars, so it's good to see everybody at the table. But I really do think that the city needs to kind of rethink about how we go about these things, and I feel strongly that people who have deals, potential deals, should come to the table with lender financing first. If you're vetted by a lender, I think then we as city council members can feel much more confident about our investment in the project, and there's no reason a lender can't do a commitment letter with a contingency for government financing as a part of the deal. But I'm, in this instance, with the additional vetting that we've done, I'm comfortable with the deal.
Charlie?
I'm reminded, too, that this may be an opportunity to begin looking at how we deal with an active railroad line and potential walkway space between downtown Carl and further to the east. I know that Matt hopes to be able to open up the south side of the building and use that space in a way, and I don't know yet if you know the boundary lines. We've walked over there and looked at potential boundary lines and stuff, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what can be done. But long term, we'll need to talk to the railroad about some hopefully very positive issues in developing some public pathway along active line.
Diane?
Well, I said it 2 weeks ago, I'll say it again. Short term, it's an active rail line, and there are going to be people crossing back and forth on that track between the Station Theater and the, hopefully lots of people. So that safety issue needs to be addressed as well. So I'm curious to see how that'll be addressed.
Okay, we have a motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Is there any other discussion? Aaron, go ahead.
Made me think about something about what you said, Mr. Madigan. The lending, if you, for some odd reason, are not given or afforded a loan the amount that you would be seeking, how does this, Brandon, affect our agreement if the bank only wants to give you 75% of what you're asking for? How does that affect our involvement?
The agreement would never take effect because the developer would fail to evidence to the city condition precedent C that they have, in a commercially reasonable form, satisfactory to the city, demonstrate its ability to pay for the cost of the project. So unless there was some other financing that came to the table that would evidence the deal, then that condition precedent would not be met and the agreement would not take effect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammon?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
And we have a budget amendment, ordinance number 2015-07-070, an ordinance revising the annual budget. And this is for the redevelopment agreement with Broadway Market LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Bill Brown.
Yeah, I just note that one of the reasons this TIF has a healthy balance is because of some diligent work by staff in recovering some money from the Landmark Hotel property. So I appreciate the work done there and the reasonableness of that developer to comply. So I think we're doing a good job in making sure we're using our development money the best we can.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammon?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. Thank you all for coming. That motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.